I want to talk about Whoopi Goldberg because I got so many texts this week because she attacked me the week before.
Sure.
So everybody was like, oh, Bill, I get you're enjoying the karma. First of all, I'm going to talk about this at the end of my show next week, teaser. But there is no thing as karma.
Political discussions have turned into a battlefield where rigid ideas frequently conflict with reason and reasoning. Bill Maher recently took center stage to refute Whoopi Goldberg's claims with his signature candor and wit. This wasn't simply another celebrity feud. Rather, it served as a stark reminder to those who adhere to unsustainable beliefs.
Understand that part of our sorry racial history in this country is that the point of view from a black person is often going to be very different and sometimes shocking.
The Mayor has established a reputation for opposing both political extremes, but his recent interaction with Whoopi Goldberg escalated the conflict when Whoopi attempted to explain her position using the standard progressive rhetoric frequently seen on Facebook. The View *, the debate demonstrated how detached elite liberal viewpoints have gotten from the real-world concerns impacting regular Americans, and May was put on the defensive by hard facts exposing
You know, I watch your show all the time, so I know that you're a comic, but you basically go after Trump and Biden. You know, both of them, and a lot of people are not happy with you about that.
Not equally.
Well, not equally, because you know that Trump is doing more dangerous.
Of course. I mean, I don't think anybody was more out front on that danger than I was.
Before getting into the debate itself, it's important to comprehend the main players involved. For example, Bill Maher is a traditional liberal who rejects strict ideological labels, while Whoopi Goldberg, a staunch supporter of liberal policies, has frequently dismissed criticism of the left as nothing more than right-wing propaganda. This contrast prepared the audience for an engaging and provocative showdown.
I was talking about how he was never going to give up power long ago when everybody was laughing at me and said, you smoke too much pot. And I said, I smoke just the right amount of pot. Because plainly, I was using the term slow-moving coup before he was elected the first time.
That's right.
I said, this guy is never going to concede power. It's impossible to imagine him going, I lost.
Whoopi's dismissal of worries about crime, the economy, and the plight of Americans in the working class sparked the altercation. Instead of openly answering his comments, Mr. swiftly replied that actual people are considerably more impacted by issues like inflation and personal safety than by symbolic activity. Whoopi sidestepped the crux of the problem with an evasive statement. Emma went on to say that she used antiquated talking points about economic policies that seemed to be getting more apart from the realities that people were dealing with.
About saying anything against Biden, because I feel, not that I have so much power, and you have some more than I do, obviously, but
I don't know about that.
Are you afraid that you might, influence people who are on the fence?
I think you lose all credibility.
The mayor never concedes to a feeble argument, highlighted a significant inconsistency in Whoopi's position, emphasizing that progressive elites, particularly white liberals, frequently pretend to support oppressed populations while ignoring the priorities of those communities. Black and Hispanic voters are more concerned with concerns like crime and economic stability than with the ideological arguments rife on social media, according to polls. Whoopi's inability to accept this discrepancy just served to emphasize how weak her case was.
I mean, my bond with my audience has always been I don't pull a punch.
Yeah.
My bond with my audience is you're not going to like everything I say, but I'm saying what I really think is true.
Right.
That's. Okay. And look, Biden just presents as old. It's not really fair.
No.
Because he's almost the same age. Trump is almost the same age as him.
I know.
The mayor's shift in the conversation toward political hypocrisy, bringing up the Hunter Biden controversies and highlighting how Democrats who advocate for accountability remain silent when one of their own is involved in a scandal, was the real turning point. He attempted to minimize Biden's actions by claiming they were exaggerated, but Emma wasn't going to let her off the hook that easily.
Trump doesn't present that way. You look at somebody right away, you can kind of just sum them up. I mean, we are not young, but we don't present as old.
Yeah.
Biden does. I saw him yesterday making that speech.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sorry, he's cadaver-like.
But his brain is good. He's still great.
Well, here's what I said. Like when I came back after the strike in September, I said,
Before pardoning his own son, Emma reminded the audience of President Biden's own statements that no one is above the law. She claimed that this obvious double standard is the reason why so many Americans have lost faith in the political system. If the rules are only followed when it's convenient, they are no longer rules at all. Whop's defense was unable to stand up to the force of Mr. R's reasoning.
I mean, a conservative once said to me, what you guys in the liberal side of it don't get about Donald Trump is we don't like him either.
Yeah.
It's just that in this country, it's binary. I mean, gender may not be binary, but politics is. You only get two choices. And the stuff that they are afraid of, they see Donald Trump as a bulwark again.
As the discussion heated up, the mayor emphasized how the media shapes public opinion and criticized mainstream outlets for stifling the Hunter Biden story before the election, claiming that they were more concerned with maintaining narrative control than with journalistic integrity. Rather than confronting the evidence Mr. presented, Whoopi dismissed his argument as just another right-wing conspiracy theory.
Buried the Hunter Biden story before the election because they were like, we can't risk having the election thrown to Trump. We'll tell them after the election.
The discussion then broadened when the mayor attacked the progressive movement for fostering an atmosphere in which challenging their views is seen as an act of animosity. He emphasized that working-class Americans, who are the very group that progressives purport to represent, are increasingly rejecting the extreme narratives propagated by media elites. Rather than accepting this fact, Whoopi persisted in dismissing valid concerns as nothing more than right-wing hyperbole. The mayor then turned his attention to the shifting political landscape, describing how the Democratic Party's dramatic shift to the left has alienated important voter groups such as Black and Hispanic Americans. According to polls, these groups are less tolerant of unchecked illegal immigration and more patriotic, supporting law enforcement than white progressives, but Democrats continue to cater to elite activists rather than addressing the real concerns.
Obama had her over to the White House, like in 2013, to hint, hey, spend more time with the grandkids. That would not be a good idea, Ruth. And she didn't take the hint, and she was not in good health, and she stayed too long, and she ruined her legacy and got the Supreme Court now to be a pretty right-wing organization. Said Biden shouldn't do that, but ego. He's Dracula. He has crossed oceans of time to be here, and he's not going to give it up now.
Throughout the debate, Whoopi Goldberg found it difficult to support her ideas against the mayor's fact-based arguments. Instead, she resorted to evasive talking points rather than directly answering his concerns. Emotional pleas and evasion revealed a fundamental flaw in woke politics. The unwillingness to face uncomfortable realities when ideological convictions like these are contested, rather than admit that Black and Hispanic Americans place a higher priority on problems like public safety and economic stability. Whoopi changed the subject, revealing her unwillingness to address the pressing issues.
And that stuff is a lot closer to the home. It's like my kid is coming home from school, and they're not allowed to tell me if they're transitioning. The school is going to take the side of the kid over the parent, stuff like that. There is a lot of crazy stuff on the left. This book, there's stuff that each side is going to like and probably stuff they're not going to.
Her claims were successfully refuted. Whoopi resorted to playing the victim, accusing the mayor of misrepresenting her opinions and making her appear terrible. However, the mayor was only holding up a mirror, and Whoopi didn't like what she saw. When confronted with the facts, she was unable to respond in a reasonable manner.
You used the term woke, and you said that woke is what was sort of ruining everything. And I know that you're...
No, I didn't say ruining everything. I said that's why Trump could get reelected.
That's why Trump could get reelected.
Yeah.
So the term woke has been, in my view, co-opted by the right and weaponized and bashed. And so I was surprised to hear you use the term because historically, as you know, because I think you're quite brilliant, that woke is a word used by the Black community to note that we must be aware of social injustice.
Being a longtime liberal, the mayor's criticism was more potent because it didn't originate from a conservative. Although he has become an outsider in some groups due to his reputation in challenging the excesses of the progressive movement and his reluctance to submit to ideological purity tests, he has also gained the respect of people who value sincere discussion and critical thought.
Look, I'm not going to defend Donald Trump ever, but I would never say that we should put the swastika on the cap, because I think you can hate Donald Trump. You can't hate everybody who likes him. It's half the country. I don't want to live in that country. I don't want to live in the country where I hate half the country, and I don't hate half the country.
How dare you disagree with me?
The cruelest part of the mayor's criticism was that rather than raising his voice with deliberate calmness, he shredded Whoopi's arguments one by one, leaving her without a firm foundation upon which to stand. Whoopi, clearly frightened, could only provide evasive rejoinder that did little to restore her credibility. In the end, this argument went beyond Whoopi Goldberg and represented a larger change in American politics as more people start to recognize the flaws and double standards within the woke movement. Once a liberal symbol, the mayor is now among its harshest critics, not because he changed, but rather because the movement strayed from its fundamental beliefs.
That's the answer to the Donald Trump situation, is what's going to get him elected is this woke stuff that a lot of people in this country just don't go for.
Well, one thing that I break with is that you can disagree on candidates, but when one talks about literally upending the entire democracy, that's my hard out. There's not an equal comparison.
Mayor's critique demonstrates how the Democratic Party has shifted so far left that it frequently ignores the concerns of everyday Americans. Issues like inflation, crime, and education matter more than social activism, but the woke agenda dominates Mayor's willingness to challenge this, making him one of the few mainstream voices speaking out against progressive excesses. With Whoopi Goldberg, he highlights a growing divide within liberalism. Mayor represents an older generation that values free speech and practical issues, while the woke movement focuses on ideological purity and activism. This shift has alienated many traditional liberals.
It's not a bad thing, and originally that was absolutely a great thing. Alert to injustice, who's not for that? But words do migrate. Now, I'll use any term you want. Okay. Because maybe that is a word that's triggering, and so let's not use that word. I don't know, want to call it the super far left, but don't tell me the left
Or maybe the super far right.
The interaction between Bill Maher and Whoopi Goldberg highlights a significant issue regarding the direction of political commentary in the U.S., particularly as the mainstream media becomes more ideologically oriented. Maher stands out for defying partisan expectations. His readiness to critique both sides has won him the respect of conservatives and moderates, while frustrating many progressives who demand unwavering devotion to their cause.
We talked about that. I mean, I think we agree about the danger of the super far right, and I can't say it enough. I think they're the bigger threat. But don't tell me that the left hasn't changed. I'm old enough to remember when it was the conservatives who hated the...
This discussion demonstrates how Americans are consuming political content differently, with many turning away from celebrity-driven programs and traditional journalism in favor of independent commentators with fair viewpoints. Figures such as Joe Rogan demonstrate a need for candid, unvarnished conversations. If popular shows like If the View doesn't change, it could become irrelevant. Viewers want genuine conversations about real concerns and are sick of hearing from out-of-touch celebrities. The mayor has shown that he is prepared to deliver it, even if it means offending ideological purists.
Women have this is a show watched by a lot of women. Women have no rights.
Right.
If people keep rejecting ideological purity and performative outrage, may this discussion be a turning point. If the woke establishment doesn't pay attention, it might lose ground more quickly than anticipated. The mayor's removal of Whoopi Goldberg might potentially be the beginning of a much bigger reckoning.